Patience, Jen and Sammy here with little girl. This is not going to be a long video. Usually when I do testimonial snippets or parts of my continuing testimony, I try to do them vlog style or face-to-face. But this one I actually have quote-unquote evidence for or proof of. So I have a little photo album I made up just for this video. So please keep in mind that when people share their personal stories online or in a public venue at all, I'm not saying this just for myself. I'm saying this for myself on how I should treat others and view others when somebody shares their testimony with us. We should be kind enough, if we're going to view it or listen to it at all, to listen with an openness, to hear their story, because they're not sharing it. Usually when somebody shares something personal, it's not for clout, it's not for pomp and circumstances, it's not to promote things. Usually it is just to share with others and hopefully point others in the other direction, or usually it's to help in some way, is what I'm trying to say. Sorry, it's been a rough week. We had the fair here. The kitchen's very loud. It's been very, very hot. And my body is wore out. My voice is wore out. So please forgive me. I hope you all are well. I'm going to turn the comments on just so they can be on if anyone joins. Let me grab a drink. Okay. So anyone who followed the original channel, Brie and Jen, knows that I do this because I feel I was led to. And I believe in sharing my personal testimony, I can point to certain things and offer some insight into them and hopefully help people avoid some of the pitfalls that I fell into myself. And now it's very strange because my testimony has a lot of bits and parts and moving parts that relate to pop culture, movies, television, current events, things that we have seen. Most of you know my belief that everything that blew up in my little family in 2018, 2019 echoed out, and I began to see some of the things that I was shown on a personal level coming to the forefront in the public. That is why I maintain the belief that the Antichrist or something like that, some type of nefarious enemy to life, mankind, life in general, meaning the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, and humanity as a whole. It seems like something is going on in Ohio. Please also keep in mind, and again, this is the honor system, that a lot of the things that happen in my testimony, I didn't know were in movies or stories or anyone else's testimony. That is just as much a surprise to me as it is to the people that I share with. So please understand it's very surreal, and I do the best that I can to explain things in a helpful way that, again, others can learn from and maybe avoid. So this is kind of the beginning. This is an area near home where I go to fish or to hike. It's right down the road. It's a state park. And so I'm going to tell you about something that happened before I went to Florida. This is my Florida album. Now, if you look at the dates, this album started on May 16th. The June 2024, that is just what I added at the end, and you'll see why once we get there. So this happened right before I went to Florida. We went fishing at a spot I like to call Turtle Bay. If you come down this wooden walkway, you see towards the camera, I guess basically towards us. That's where we walk into a little bay inlet area. And we have a, hi, thanks for being here. We have a eagle's nest right there. We have a lot of conservation going on, which is good. Now you can see the date that I took this picture was May 16th, 2018. just so you know, I'm not I'm not changing my testimony or my life story to mesh with these current events. It just is happening, and so I'm going to point it out. And the more things like this that you expose, the more people can start to understand that this place is not as one-dimensional or boring or as black and white as we've been taught. So when we were here this day, I hadn't realized on my end that things were, being plotted or planned yet. I was starting to wake up to the fact that people were different. I was starting to come to the fact that God was calling me back. And so I did that. At that time, I had started to, pray again, but nothing major. And so there's actually like a little bay area that you stand on right here, and you fish off of this, right? So as we're on this bay, the first thing that happened is my spouse's fishing pole was pulled in by a turtle. So I jumped over, being the tomboy that I am, because he doesn't like getting his hands dirty. And that's very spiritual. When somebody around you literally does not like to get their hands dirty and they're constantly washing their hands and they're not in healthcare, that's pointing to something and an attachment that they have. So pay attention to things like that. So I jump over, I get halfway in the water, I pull it out, right? Everything's good for a minute. Across the way, now I know it was across the way because you can tell where things are coming. So over here to the right comes this like screech or scream that I had never heard in my life, and it gave me chills. And it was this day, and look, you can see it is daytime. It was May 16th, 2018, okay? Keep that in the back of your mind. So I heard this scream, and it was a cross between a woman, like the worst scream you would ever hear, but at the same time, it sounded feline, like a cat. There's a reason for that. Anyone who's followed like the Bigfoot stories, and I told you how that's a big part of this uprising that we're seeing. Bigfoot is actually a really big part of all this, okay? And I know that sounds wild. I can't even believe the words are coming out of my mouth. But he's a Sasquatch. He's of the animal/human kingdom. I believe he's a hybrid, and I believe his bloodline was wrote of in the Bible. But that's all I'm going to say about that for right now. We can touch on that topic at another time because it's not really related, but I just had to give you that little bit. So I hear this scream, and I'm like, oh my God, what was that? And the spouse was like, I don't know, but he doesn't seem really bothered, right? Like he's not super bothered. Now come to find out, after a lot of research and stuff, and once I realized what I was hearing, and again, this didn't play a part until recently. A lot of the times you look back at your life and you're like, oh my gosh, this is what that was. Hindsight is 2020. So at the time, all I know is I hear either a woman getting torn apart or a cat, a giant, like a big cat, right? When I say feline, I mean like mountain lion type cat. And it's daytime, so I'm like, what is going on? What is that, right? What's happening? And the spouse looks at me and he looks over, he's like, I don't know. What do you think it is? There's some weird cryptic thing like that, right? And again, I'm not really noticing yet that people are different. I'm just now getting called back to God. I had one of those dreams, but I didn't realize yet it was an encounter and that somebody was going against my consent, and I don't even know what to call it. Basically, getting you and keeping you in a half sleep state, like sleep paralysis. And again, I've gone over this ad nauseum about how there are medications and injections and anesthesia that can make you think that, you are having these experiences, but they are generated, by mankind. But I believe it's mankind working with something else in cooperation. So all of us who are for life, light, personal sovereignty, free will, your own personal destiny, and by being for light, love, and life, that means we are for God and truth, because God is light, He is love, He is just, People say, well, the Old Testament God did this, that, and the other. We would not love God, and we could not call him a loving God if he was not just. And we cannot complain about him being just because we have free will. Now, he can take the free will away and we'll be automatons and just serving him or serving the planet in whatever way he programs us to do so. Our maker is a loving maker who simply did not want to be alone and wanted a family and wanted others to share in the love that he is literally made of. He, she, whatever. All right, so I heard this wicked sound, right? So this is Florida, and I'm going to show you. These are personal pictures that I took while I was there. This is not me just, again, suiting my testimony to match some mainstream wild theory. It actually does go with it. So this was taken May 23rd, 2018. I am in Florida. At the same time, you can look it up because I've done this, again, ad nauseum. When I was down there, one of those spirals in the sky allegedly was captured, and written about. I've shown you guys the link. Also, at the same time I was there, I did not know it was happening, but at the same time I was there, the bass player from the death metal group Cannibal Corpse allegedly went mental and started screaming, ran to his neighbor's house, ran in the house, and started screaming about how the rapture was here and we were being taken over. And he actually was arrested for that, and he's doing this whole thing, but he is not public anymore. Anyone who goes against the mainstream agenda that they want you to believe, anybody that starts talking about this stuff openly, they shut down your platform, they shut down your voice if they can, they try to gaslight you to get you in a state of fear. Remember, fear is a hole in your armor. Once you have fear and they have you in the grips of fear, they can better manage and control you. And they can also work then what is considered to be witchcraft or illusory, just illusion, like a magician. Their illusions or their enchantments against you can work then once they attach fear to you. Again, because fear creates an open doorway in you for this negative gobbledygook, bippity boppity boo type stuff to attach to you. Okay, and I use light language in these types of videos, again, with a purpose. So this is Florida. Guess where I was taken? Again, I went on a trip with my neighbor. She invited me. First she's going, then she's not going, then she's going, then she's not going. First I have to pay, then I don't have to pay, then I do have to pay. And the trip was very bizarre. When I went down there were very few people that I actually saw other than her family. She would go into another room, and I would just kind of hang out with her family for an hour or two for the 3-4 days that we were down there. It was very fast, very rushed. And she got very mad that one of the nights I got my own room and spent the night in my own room. I wasn't comfortable sharing a room with one or a bed with one of her children, and I was not comfortable. I could see by the way she was treating me that something was up. But I was being very kind, very gracious. Again, I'm trying really hard to be Christ, especially at this point. So we went to St. Lucia. Now, this is St. Lucia from Florida, canonized by the Catholic Church. But if you look at some of the names of the places in America, a lot of them are either God and light or dark and devil. You have like Devil's Canyon, Devil's Cliff, the Devil's Icebox. Those are all names at the Old Glacier Park that's here in Ohio. It's also part of a state park, but every name is after the devil. Lucy, or Lucy in the Skies with Diamonds, is about the principality of the air, who controls the air. Lucifer, Lucia, Lucy. This is why in all these movies with the lady in the red dress and with Scarlett Johansson, the name is almost always Lucy. Now, when somebody is lost and they are in a maze or a labyrinth, that character's name, or a matrix, that character's name is almost always Alice. And again, these are just symbolic reoccurrences and patterns that I'm trying to point out to you, because these patterns are reoccurring. And if we see them reoccurring, especially if they're bad patterns in our life, we can stop them or change them once we're aware of them. Because you do have free will. Although it seems like these events are cyclical and they happen in patterns, you need to remember that you're a free-willed being and you don't have to just go along with the flow. Please remember that. So this is St. Lucie. Look, again, there's nobody on the beach. And it's May, right? Spring breaker time, kind of. Nobody here, like, at all. And Florida's, like, massively populated, allegedly. And in Ohio, and the kids that I work with now, everybody vacations in Florida. They all have family in Florida. Ohio and Florida are, like, the same place. And they just swap during the spring and the winter seasons. It's very strange. Now, also, it's worth mentioning that recently I realized I started watching found footage films with a purpose. I believe that some of them are real. Hold your horses before you start calling me crazy. Why do I believe this? Because there's such a thing called a snuff film. My mom owned video stores. I know all kind of tricks that they use to release movies. I know that they make alternative endings to every single movie. I know that when an actor hits the big time, they will buy up the copy of all these old movies if they don't want it seen again. So when people tell me about the Mandela effect relating to pop culture like that, I'm like, look, we got to get something more significant. Anything digital can be changed, right? Anybody can fake you out with that type of stuff. And they get mad at me for telling you this. They don't want you to think. They don't want you to use your brain. They don't want you to use reason and logic. They want you to be like an animal, just on instinct. Food, fornication, and, sleep, slothfulness. They want you to just be catering to the material here because it kills your spirit. And what it does is it deadens your intuition that we all have. And that will stop working. And it will stop telling you when there's an enemy near you. We have this primal thing way back from our ancestors. It's when the hair on the back of your neck stands up and you know you're being watched. Same thing. Your body will physically tell you when there is someone of darkness or someone around you who is your enemy. You got to pay attention to these things. So as I'm looking for these found footages, because I want to watch them, I know all about observing people, watching their reactions. My father would take me to the mall as a kid. We'd sit on the bench and he'd be like, I'd be like, what are we doing, Dad? Why are we just sitting here? He's like, we're people watching, Jenbo. And I'm like, what do you mean people watching? He's like, look, think about their stories, where they might be rushing off to. Observe them and how they move. Is that one a parent? Is that one a student? Is that one a professor? Is that one a mechanic? Pay attention to things, right? Pay attention to detail. I never knew as a child how well my dad's lessons like that would serve me as an adult. But if you pay attention and you really know your loved ones and your friends and your family, you will know when something's wrong. So I'm going through these found footage films and you guys were here with me. This was just a few months ago. And I come across Slenderman. I'd never read anything about this character. Now, Slenderman, the Boogeyman, the thing in the woods, right? The wolf, the big bad wolf. All of these characters are the same thing. I think they present themselves to a person in whatever form that person fears. So if you're in the Christian paradigm and you fear black-eyed demons, that's how they're going to present themselves. If you are a younger kid and they know you're afraid of creepypastas, it's going to present itself as Slenderman to you. Now, there's a part of that story that, again, nobody picked up on. There's a couple parts, like a lot. You allow these other YouTubers to tell you what to think of a story and to frame it for you. These YouTubers are the new mainstream media, guys. This is why they're all down in Hollywood. This is why they're all talking crap on Hollywood. It's not even because they think they're bad people. It is simply because they want to take their place. They want all of your attention now. And you have to ask yourself, what agenda are they pushing? Because now YouTubers are like these celebrities. They know that's what you follow. They know that's what the younger generation follows. So a few years ago, if you look back in the videos, you'll see a whole gangload of YouTubers taking the milk bath in a video, literally baptizing themselves into this cult, okay? So a lot of these people, the big ones, that bank, cannot be trusted. Mr. Beast, one of the main ones. Yes, I know allegedly he does this great work. And also he's in like Asia, then he's in Japan, then he's in America, all in pretty much the same day. There's a lot of deep fake videos occurring at this time as well. They don't want you to know what is real. That's the whole point. So that when they do their grand illusion in the sky, they can get you to react the way they want you to react. Because remember, not all UFOs, not all aliens are demons. Some are angels, and they have not been locked out of heaven. So the good guys are going to come from above. The bad aliens, the demonic aliens, are going to come from the waterways. They are already here. They have been trapped to the earth with us. They are spirits of the Nephilim. But somehow they have... Some people think there's clones. I don't think that's what's happening. I don't think that's a lot of resources. That's a lot of energy when they can just possess human bodies. Okay? I think there's something else going on. But they want you to believe there's clones, right? Why are all these YouTubers with their TikTok videos pushing clones? And I know some people want to believe in that. But I'm telling you, they want you to believe that because they want to have the next movie is probably going to be the Clone Wars. Like that's probably the next screen play that we're going to find ourselves in. All right. So now back to the Slenderman. I had no idea that this Slenderman stuff was going on, and it's all based in Florida. The one guy that now is nowhere to be found, and he's been accused of being a child harmer. You know what I'm trying to say there. Not everyone, but when they accuse somebody of that, you have to be very careful not to get caught up in emotion. Remember, there are such a thing as false accusations, and they want to discredit certain people just so you won't listen to them. They want you in darkness and ignorance so they can manipulate you and control and supersede your free will, your sovereignty. And I only know this because it almost happened to me. I was almost completely taken over. And if it wasn't for me hitting my knees and asking the one who made me to push all this back and give me time to get where I needed to be in my spirit, you need to be strong in your free will and your sovereignty. You need to be able to mentally and spiritually endure. And there is no one stronger than the one who can ignore all the gaslighting and nefarious plotting and the street theater. When they put that stuff around you, the best thing you can do is to not react and not respond or to laugh. And if it's that serious, you do what I'm doing. You put a voice to it and you expose it to the light, because once you do that, it's like in the medical field. When you expose certain germs or certain bacteria to the light will actually kill it and sanitize or sanctify whatever it's touching, whether it be germ, virus, bacteria, usually bacteria. Think fungi, right? Although there are a lot of good benefits to fungi, it's still a mold. Hold, please. Okay, so back to the story. This is St. Lucie. This is the coast of Florida. And I had no idea about the Slenderman stories. But when I get back from Florida, I start getting things in the mail. Again, which I've shown you. All the stuff that happened to the people in the Slenderman movies has happened to me. The one character, Vinny, from Everyman Hybrid, my story is very similar to his and Evan's. I don't know my background. Never saw my real birth certificate. There's all this like intrigue and every time I try to get my real birth certificate, I get blocked. My mom was adopted. So I have a lot in common with the alleged cast of the Slenderman movies. And now you'll see that once I started talking about it, lo and behold, 10 years later, they do 2 documentaries back to back. And I shared them on the community tab. Why does this keep happening? Why do things that I'm talking about on my small channel, if I'm that small and very few people get to hear my messages, why bother with such extreme measures? I think we're all being watched, and I think we've been watched for a very long time. And I think it's with nefarious purposes, but also with it. Some of it may have started with, good intention. I'll leave that there for right now. We'll talk more about surveillance. I actually might upload a video today about a surveillance program that I found that you can look up yourselves. So watch for that, because when I do a live and then an upload, usually the algorithm will hide at least one of them. So please watch the channel for that upload if you're interested in hearing about another U.S. government surveillance program that, according to our gaslighters, does not exist, and targeting individuals does not exist. Although this person will make videos about every one of us, tag us, calling us names, and acting like a 5-year-old bully on a school ground. And right away, I know that they're military, because all military meatheads are acting in that same childlike manner at this time. Again, there's a reason they told the military not to take any DNA tests when CV began. And CV, those tests, those were DNA tests. Again, they're not going to give you the appropriate context. They are going to show you who they are with their actions and with pictures. So when the media showed these people lining up and getting their cheeks swabbed, when you do a throat culture, you actually need phlegm, and you have to, that's when they use the giant tooth or Q-tip and they gag you. That's how you test for bronchitis. I know, because it's been done to me many times. I'm not a doctor. No part of this is medical advice. It's for entertainment only, of course, unless you have another takeaway. All the disclaimers will be in the description box. So think back to CV. Go watch some of the videos. Those are DNA tests. They are looking for someone, or they want to isolate your genome so that they can specifically target certain individuals with certain things, I'll say. And that's where I'll leave that for right now. So, again, I'm down in Florida, didn't know all of this stuff. There's nobody at the beaches. Honestly, when they show us Israel in some, because they don't show you much, right? They've been showing the same parts of Israel in the Middle East to us in movies and news clips for millennial now, since TV began. It's always the same alleyway. Nobody ever changes. It's always the same part of the wall on the outside. They never actually show the whole city. I think there's a reason for that. Again, they say America's not in the Bible. I would argue it is, and it had a different name. It just was not called America, okay? I believe that we are in what very likely was the first Israel. And you have to ask yourself why so many names and why so many things are the same here as they are in England. Again, there are reasons for all of these inaccuracies and inconsistencies we're seeing. If you go back to what you learned in school and to what you're seeing today and add some of these things together, you should be able to see how bizarre all of this looks. Florida looks an awful lot like the Israel they show us in clips. So this is actually what we're told is Florida. That's where I went, Florida. But to me, again, certain areas that are very bare in this area, in this part of Florida, look a lot like, for example, video clips that we see on channels like Israeli News. And the guy who runs Israeli News, he's the doppelganger for my brother-in-law. So when I say this goes deep with me, I'm not kidding. So this is me. This is what I wrote because my neighbor took me to Florida and I wrote that in the sand. This was May 23rd, 2018. Pay attention. This is from the Malaysian flight, the kid Tyler. I did a whole video series on this. A couple of the videos were taken down from the main channel because I talked about CV in them, about how I believe it was a spiritual virus, just like a computer virus. Again, I'm not a doctor. No part of this is medical advice. All those YouTubers who say you can't say certain words, they talk about this stuff all day long. They talk about baby sacrifice. They talk and they use the right words. So let's be very clear. I'm going to use AMA source formatting in my description, which means it's college level crediting and sourcing, okay? I understand how to do that. So this is all shared per the Fair Use Act of, 1976 as well. All that will be in the description box. So this is from the Malaysian flight. A kid named Tyler allegedly got a couple of voicemails on his phone, and they didn't know what it was for or who it was from, but they believe it was from somebody on the Malaysian flight. One of the messages he got was a series of numbers in code. And this is only part of the message. Now, I did a video on this, but it was the Brie and Jen channel, and this was July 15th, 2021. That's when I caught on to the fact that my testimony, the date, had a lot to do with the date you see here. This is a month to the day almost before I went to Florida. Okay, that's important. Just pay attention. What you decide to do with the information is completely up to you. But I told you when I got back from Florida, everyone was different. This guy that we met from LA taught my husband how to do tattoos. He was also in a pilot show for the History Channel. I can share the video. The guy's in the video. Nobody else was around. He told me he was a fallen angel. I actually started thinking that there was a spiritual rapture, like a secret rapture, that took the spirits of people because my family was that different. When you have to tell people what their favorite meals are, or when you have to reteach someone current lingo because they're speaking with like old-timey language, something is wrong. Like when somebody changes on fundamental levels like that, the way they speak, the way they eat, the way they dress, something is going on. When I had to reteach someone about shampoo recently, that's not the quote-unquote norm. And I don't go for the word normal or crazy because we all got issues here. Ain't nobody getting out of here without scars. None of us, okay? So I don't prefer to call anybody crazy. I don't diagnose anybody because I'm not a doctor. So all these people who are doing it to people like me and calling us schizophrenic, you better stop that because number one, it's against HIPAA. It's against my rights as an American citizen. And none of you would allow us to even talk about CV when it started happening. So don't you dare start diagnosing people from your mother's basement or from your military friggin' bunker. And maybe you shouldn't act like teenagers and schoolyard bullies. And maybe you shouldn't have went with this bogus agenda. What is so great about communism and spiritual drought that everybody wants to see, like the most beautiful art of humanity destroyed and have paint thrown on it, and the most beautiful movies and books and films are now made fun of and taken out of the libraries because they make people too uncomfortable. Damn it, it's time we got uncomfortable. If you're not uncomfortable, then you're doing something wrong, especially Americans. We feed every vice. We feed every hunger. We feed every lust. Deny yourself, man. That's how you become strong, is by telling yourself no. And that's how you learn to tell others, no, I do not consent to any of these shenanigans. And I want to make that very clear. I am submissive to one, and that is my maker, the Most High God. That's who I'm submissive to. Now, if he or she, my heavenly parentals, want me to submit to current agendas, at that time I will. But I haven't received any insight as to that's what I'm supposed to be doing. So Tyler got all these messages. They related them to the missing Malaysian flight. So the first part of this message says, evacuate. They are taking over. They aren't human. Okay, first of all, if it did come from a plane, the person might have well said evacuate, and like it was two people on the plane texting each other. And for whatever reason, it hit this young man's phone. But again, it also might just be somebody revealing it to us without revealing their source. Okay? Some of these things do have to be hidden to protect individuals. Okay? There's a reason, the military of the USA government doesn't tell us everything they're out there doing, because that would be a danger. That would be a security breach. So when Americans say we want transparency, do you really want transparency? Do you really want them to know where everything we have is, where our president is at any given moment in time? That's dangerous. We have a lot of enemies, with good reason as well. So that was the first part of the message. It says, evacuate. They are not human. They are taking over. And then this date, April 18th, 2018. And I showed you that this started May 16th, and then by May 18th, a month, just 3 days later, I was in Florida. Okay, my Florida pictures start on May 23rd, but you get the point. I have other pictures, but it has people in them. So of course, I'm not gonna just blast somebody's image or address. I'm not gonna dox anybody. I don't do that unless like unless somebody's truly wicked and something really, nefarious is happening. So this is St. Lucie Beach, boardwalk of thy neighbor. Now this, I just saw recently, this was a TikTok thing. Mind you, I stopped watching Simpsons when my children were born. I loved the show, but it was a little crass and crude for kids, so I stopped watching it. Now, they did see things like this. They saw worse than this over at their aunts and uncles' houses, again, which I did not consent to. We have to stop thinking. All you people without children, like my aunt and my sister-in-law, it's not my fault you don't have kids. That don't mean you can just take anybody's that you want. And I know why they did that, too, in this time. Because in this time, the only ones who are quote-unquote, safe from extermination are the ones who are actively mothering a minor child or actively fathering a minor child or somebody high profile who is pushing the agenda. Okay, so the Simpsons episode. There's an episode about the rapture. Now we know a lot of the Simpsons predictions came true. I know all about predictive programming. I don't think that's what this is. I don't like that term anymore. Back in the day, sure, it fit. Now, I don't think that's what's happening. I've told you guys over and over and over again, either A, the things that we put into this giant quantum computer. Now remember, CERN is the birthplace of the internet. When they show you the LHC and tell you what they're doing, we have to just look at the pictures and look at the bits and parts that they are giving us. Theoretically, every part that is operating in conjunction at CERN right now is what you would theoretically need for time travel, according to Albert Einstein and Tesla. Okay? Now, we've talked about that a bit, but I just wanted to make sure certain things, again, you need a background. I don't know what you know. I'm not going to assume you're ignorant, but I'm not also going to assume you know everything, right? So I'm just trying to get people on the same page. So either everything that we put into this giant quantum computer, the scripts, come to life, and perhaps that's why Hitler burned books. And again, I know he was this outrageous, heathenistic, allegedly cruel, inhumane dictator. I'm not addressing any of that, okay? We've gotten actual really good bits of information from, quote-unquote, insane psychopathic people in history. For whatever reason, genius, oftentimes if that genius is not backed by a firm foundation in spirit, in God, right, in truth and morals and values, then you have to be careful with that genius. It can turn on you, as we see in the alleged case with Hitler. And I say alleged because, again, their pictures of that time don't really match up with what we're told happens. And they can't get mad at us for using our brain. And if they say asking questions is against the law, like their new A period, S period, and I don't want to say the word because I don't want to get flagged or whatever. I think you can say the word. I don't think I'll get in trouble for saying it. Again, I just don't want to be on certain radars. Not yet, if I can help it. I don't know that I can help it because I think more people see the videos than they are letting me know. Because again, why would my testimony seem to affect so many people? Like, why are they making 2 Slenderman documentaries now back to back right after I start talking about it? That's weird. Like, everyone keeps telling, oh, it's just coincidence. Oh, it's just coincidence. Dude, like, seriously, you're basically telling me at this point my whole life is nothing but a coincidence. And I don't care for that. I need to find reasons that things happen, right? So this is Homer Simpson, and I'm not going to show you the clip, but I will attach a video link in the description. You can go watch it. I don't watch TikTok. I don't really like the app. I think I try to stay away from social media myself as much as I can. I do this just to try and reach out and let people know, hey, if any other strange stuff is going on around you or in your area, you're not alone. And to encourage you guys, talk in the comments. Let me know. How is your testimony rolling along, your life testimony? Are you experiencing any strange inconsistencies in your life compared to what you were told growing up? Are you seeing people in your life change? Okay, these are all good questions. Now, let me make it very clear that the rapture doctrine is not a part of Catholicism. But I want to make something else clear. The verse that I see the rapture in, nobody else talks about. And I don't know why. Everybody points to Thessalonians. I'm going to point you to a different verse. There's a verse that says in the end times, and it's in Revelation. I'll find it and attach it after the video. There's a verse that says, oh shoot, I lost my thought. Hold on. Oh, it says, in the end days, Christ will send his angels, because it wouldn't make no sense for Christ to come down, get the saints, take them back up, then come back down for judgment. Like, he's not going to go up and down and up and down. Like, that don't even make sense, right? And I know that faith sometimes is a leap of faith, right? Is belief without sight, without evidence. When science and logic and reason can take you no further, that's why people need faith. Faith fills that gap. And it also, that's where your morals and values come from. If somebody says they don't believe in God, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be mean, but I know this again from experience as an adult who's lived. If they don't believe in God, you have to ask yourself, okay, then what is their moral compass like, and where are they pulling their values from? Because they might not have any. They might not have any. And I just heard that the reason Crowley said, do as thou wilt, was because this is allegedly that last age. So he said, live it up. So the reason that he said that we're told isn't even what we're told, right? So I just wanted to say that while I was thinking of it. So there's a verse that says Christ will send down his 4 angels to gather the elect from the 4 corners of the earth. East, north, south, and west are the 4 corners. North is not up in the sky. It's not above you. North is a direction like east or west. That's how it should be. And I know this might sound weird to some people. Just pay attention. There is up and there is down, right? Up to the sky, down to earth. And then there is north, south, east, and west. Okay? And yes, they are directional on a circular pancake-like surface. That's what I believe right now. Will that change? It might. It might. But for right now, that's where I'm at. So the verse is in Revelation. Nobody ever points to it being about the rapture, but it says he will send down his angels to gather the elect from the 4 corners. First thing to consider, one, is time is different for God. This could be where some of the missing 411 people are going when they go into the forest. They're plucked up at different times, from different ages even, from different years, because time doesn't matter in once you're outside of the firmament, basically. So he could have gathered all these people up at different times whenever they were vulnerable and alone and nobody would see. And then they were taken up to heaven, up to the clouds, up in the next realm, the one above us. They leveled up, okay? So that's very possible. Another thing to consider is the reason, if there is a rapture, it's a secret rapture. And if there is one, there's probably 3. Hold up. I know you're going to say, what are you talking about, right? And again, this concept started with my original testimony on the Brie and Jen channel. And now I am actually hearing it a little bit echo out. So I know that it resonates with other people out there. The truth should resonate inside of you. It should ring like a bell. Truth has a very specific frequency. When someone's lying to you, their voice will go fake nice. I call it fake nice. I call it sing-songy. Oh, hi, how are you? Like real high, right? That's fake, phony. That means that person don't like you. They're hiding stuff from you. That's not the normal way of speaking. I have a sibling who talks like this to me all the time, or used to. And I'm like, pretty much your lips are moving, so you're lying, huh? And it just is what it is. I still love her. Like, I don't degrade her or anything. And she's young. I hope she's grown since then. But I have serious reason to believe she is willingly on the other side. And remember, we have different fathers, and we have different genetics, and thus a different bloodline. Bloodline does have a lot to do with this. Now, let's say you are of the bloodline that is Cain, right? The bad seed bloodline from Eve and whomever. We won't get into that right now. Can you still be saved? I believe so. But it might be harder for you. You have to ask You have to recognize God. And a lot of people with that specific bloodline, and I believe they're hybrids, they're anti-God. Like they're born like that, and I don't know why. So we're going to move forward. If there are raptures, they are secret. Why would they be secret? Because think about it. If it's like them, and again, anything Hollywood pushes, anything that is mainstream or a trending idea or thing is most likely a lie, deception, or distraction, or all three. When they tell you, here, look at this, this is trending, everybody's doing this, you should run the other way. Don't walk, run in the exact opposite direction. That's how I began this journey. That's how I started. I was so dead, like my spiritual insight and my intuition were so cut off at that point. I had to just look at whatever the world was pushing, and I would go seek out the opposite of that, the inversion of that, right? Because I didn't know the difference. I was so blinded by my own sin. Okay, it blinds the intellect. When you go against natural law, it blinds you. That's why we're seeing people now, they seem so degraded and they seem to be lacking any type of normal intelligence for their age. Much like I said, the online stalkers all have this 5-year-old school bully mentality, like the name calling and they don't let you speak, and there is no conversational exchange of ideas, or even a friendly debate, or even a antagonistic debate. They just don't want to hear you, so they talk louder and louder and louder. That's actually why I'm losing my voice, because I had to tell somebody finally again, I'm like, look, stop it. I'm not being lied to anymore. I don't want to hear this. And yes, I would call that righteous anger. We're allowed to be angry, guys. You can't act on it, right? You can't go destroy somebody's property because you're angry at them. But it's your voice. You can do with that whatever you choose. It's yours. It's your body. It's your mind. It's your soul. So don't go along just to get along for the here and now, because that is going to negatively impact and affect you. And you might say, well, I don't believe in a soul. And I would tell you that you are 3 in 1. And I'm going to tell you why Terrence Howard isn't so far off, but I think he's still in error. And I'll tell you why in a minute. So if the rapture happens, it has to be a secret. Why? Because if people saw planes falling out of the sky and they saw their friends and family floating up into the sky, that would be it. Everybody, just about everybody, would convert right then. There would be no judgment, and there would be no awakening of their conscience. They would just convert out of fear. Now, we might go to God out of fear to protect us, but we have to stay and remain because we are actually in love with our heavenly parental, with our Father, right? Do you love your earthly father? Some say no, and I can hear you right now, okay? But inside, right? So if there was a rapture, it would have to be secret, because if it wasn't secret, everybody would convert out of fear. There would be no judgment day. In order to be truly saved and to have your free will totally ignited, when Eve took the apple from the tree of knowledge, when she did that, and I know I'm going to have pushback here, but again, I'm going to say that was actually a benefit to mankind. That had to happen. We had to disobey for our free will to be quote unquote activated. And I'm looking for a different way to say that, but so anyways, when that happened, right? It's the same thing now. If the rapture was not secret, everybody would convert instantaneously, say, save me, God, without any justice occurring for all the evil that they wrought while they were here. God has to bring them back to spiritual awareness so they can feel contrite in the heart for what they did to their brothers and sisters while they were on earth. Feeling that contrite, feeling that sorrow, feeling that regret, feeling that remorse is integral and key to your free will being activated, because then you can say, wow, my actions hurt this person. I have to choose to walk this out differently because I don't want to go around hurting people willy-nilly. Do you see what I'm saying? The rapture, if they occur, have to be secret. They also have to be secret because of the enemy. Okay? God doesn't want anyone else to know that. That's why the Bible, that's why it's not written word by word by word what will happen. Because God he's bound by his word, right? He's honorable. He's an honorable God. So if he says he's going to do something, he has to stick to it and do it. That's why the end of the book, that's why the book of Revelation has so many gaps and holes and mysteries, is so God can do what he's going to do without being bound to a certain thing or situation, and so that he has some leeway. Not that he needs it per se, but again, he's an honorable God. If he says he's going to do something, he's going to do it. He doesn't want everyone knowing what's going on in these times. Some of it has to be a secret so that it can play out properly, and so that as many people as possible can come to the realization that A, they are eternal, they have a soul, that soul includes the spirit, mind, and body. And then to say, wow, I really love my brothers and sisters here on earth. I can't believe I harmed them. That's why the rapture, if it's real, number one, would be a secret. Number two, I believe that the reason nobody can agree on whether it's a pre-tribulation rapture, mid-trib, or post-trib, nobody can agree on that because all three are right. There's another verse in the Bible, and again, it's not in order, guys. And there's a lot of, in my opinion, bad teachers out there, and I might not be a theologian, and I might not have a lot of certificates. But one thing I understand is words. And I haven't forgotten that intelligence or wisdom that God has been giving me over all these years of my life when it comes to the written word, when it comes to the etymological history or roots of a term. So I'm trying to help people with that. There's another verse that says, the first shall be last and the last shall be first. What does that mean? Well, it means a couple different things. But for the purposes of this video, each verse usually has three meanings: a spiritual, a literal, or metaphysical, and a something that having to do with like a timeline. So this verse that says the first shall come last and the last shall come first, it's telling you that the first to be taken up will be the last ones who were born. The children, guys. The children would go first. That's why you're seeing so many of them act out in such strange ways, because I don't believe they all have their given spirit any longer. Or maybe the body that is still here is a mimic. Now, I'm saying maybe, okay? And I'm saying possibly, with very good reason. I believe in all this insight and intuition that God has given me, and the messages I believe that have come from my time in prayer with God. However, again, I'm reluctant to say, God said it this way, this is how it is, blah, 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 right? I'm leery to do that type of thing. When God's ready, God will speak for himself. I just try to tell people it's time, repent, because the hour is literally at hand at this point. Okay, so if there's a rapture, it's secret, and if there's one, there's three. There's a pre, a mid, and a post. Why? Because the last shall come first. The first to be raptured would be the youngest, the last born, the ones who are innocent, right? The ones who've been baptized or Christianized, christened, the ones who are under an age of reason where they can't determine right or wrong. And the Bible actually says, I never knew this, but it's actually 8 and under. I was hoping it was like 12 or 14, but apparently it's like 8 and under. Again, I'm sure it's different for every person specifically, but I'm not God, so I'm not going to guess at that. I am going to say, if there's a rapture, there is 3. The first one would have been the children, possibly with an adult guardian. I'm not sure how that works because, again, my children and husband changed at the same time. And it's important to note that all those stories of skinwalkers and all that stuff, they always retain the memories of that person that they're imitating, taking over, the person that they consumed, and now they are the doppelganger. They always retain the memories. When a person is possessed by the demonic, that demon can use that person's past against them because they now have access to that. They don't really have access to your mental prayer or even your verbal prayer if you say, get out, I don't consent. But you have to remember to do those things because we are being watched and listened to all the time now. All the time. That's why you feel nervous. That's why people have so much anxiety. They can feel themselves being watched. And that's the next topic we're going to talk about is, does streaming actually create and cause supernatural paranormal activity in a person's life? I can't find any other study that someone actually did this. But it's worth looking into, considering all the ghost hunting shows and all the stuff that's going on. Is that actually, in fact, instead of helping the problem, is that exacerbating it and making it worse? So Homer in this episode tells us that 13 divided by 333 times 666, and then he writes out the formula, and then he's got the 222, and then you have the 144,000. The very last part, the 315, they're saying the rapture will occur on May 19th at 3:15 p.m. All of these dates are very close together. This one, however, does not give a year. And I told you, I watched the decline on YouTube. I watched when bots or whatever it is seem to have taken over in June of 2019. May or June of 2019. Again, I don't remember. This is why I do video testimonies. I should have never nuked the first channel. But again, I believe everybody that needed the messages got them and received them. So what do you think? Is Homer telling us the truth? Is this another prediction? When you are the only one that has ever seen people, you're the only one to watch. Do not be afraid and do not worry. I'm not afraid and I'm not worried. I'm trying to bring people's attention to the fact that the whole effort of my whole channel is to show people you have a spirit that animates your body. And what you do with both of those is very important. And it's a very bad idea for yourself. If you don't care about others, it's a very, very bad idea for yourself to go around and harm people. The whole goal of this is to shine a light. The whole goal of this is to expose some of these things, to bring people out of fear, right? Do not fear anything or anyone other than the one who made you, that has the ability to snuff out your light at any moment. If he so chose. He doesn't choose to do so because we are loved. We are beloved. So my videos are never about fear. It's about, what do you think is going on here? Is it predictive programming? Is it, like I said, our scripts? Some of them, if somebody is quote unquote a prophet of our time, do their scripts and what they write come to life? Is this a new thing, or has it always been this way? Is this why we have paper shredders and document shredders all over the place? Again, I was shown clues of this all throughout my life with the jobs that I and my spouse had. They're all related to some of the secrets in this world. And once you can start to put those things together, that's the thing. I can only take you to a certain point. After that, you have to make the conclusions on your own, because if I were to come out and tell you certain things, you would stop listening completely. You would not believe me at all. You would not trust me. There's a reason I'm trying to lead people in this way. You have the choice, right? It's up to you. You don't have to listen. But there are certain things that are kept secret as secret wisdom or secret knowledge. And if you are seeking enough, right? If you want that knowledge, if you want that relationship with your spirit, if you want to know the mysteries of life, then that is up to you to walk those final steps in the path. I can't tell you how to perceive things. I'm just telling you that these are possibilities, that certain things have happened to me, and that I would like others to be able to avoid the worst parts of my testimony. And so I'm doing my due diligence. I'm warning my brothers and sisters on earth, my brothers and sisters in mankind and humanity. I'm warning you because I don't want to see you mess up like I did, or to be led astray purposely by the wicked ones in this world who want nothing more literally than to corrupt us. That is the point. Every day I go through the same routine. I'm offered the animal. Then it's a proposition to, have nookies. And if I don't do either of those things, then it's smaller things. Well, let's try to get her to gossip. Well, let's try to get her to talk crap about somebody. Well, let's try to get her to lie. Every day, it's the same thing, over and over and over again. And I have to say no, 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 all day long. I told you I never knew how to say no as a kid, but I sure have learned now. So is Homer telling us the date of another rapture? If there are raptures, if they are a legitimate thing, I think that there would be 3 of them. I think that there would be a pre, a mid. I'm not really sure the point of a post-rapture. So again, I'm not saying these are definites, but I'm saying the precedent and the foundation for these things being true is there. So what do you think? Have you noticed these commonalities in your life? Have you noticed and observed your loved ones changing? What area do you live in? Is the news lying about your area? Maybe I want to travel. We should share each other's, what's going on in my area, what's going on in your area. That way the media can't mislead us or lie to us. I think a lot of times they tell us a certain area is horrid and terrible because they don't want people going there because they want it to stay serene and preserved, naturally speaking, as far as nature goes, So I think sometimes they tell us, this is a bad place, don't go there, there's crime, this, that, and the other, because they want that area for themselves. We've got to start thinking, and we've got to start asking questions again. So what do you think? Is the rapture real? Was Homer right? I don't know, man. All I know is my testimony. Every time I remember something and look back at it, and now I'm able to point to what happened, it's just more bizarre and more bizarre. I had totally forgotten that I had even heard that cry here before I went to Florida. I had totally forgotten about it. But if you listen to any of the Bigfoot stories, they will actually tell you sometimes those things will be purposely attached to you. Other people will attach these things to you. And then when things start missing in your house, things start getting misplaced, they tell you that spirit cannot hurt you. They tell you that ghosts cannot hurt you. That's not entirely true. Just because you see these things does not mean they don't have substance. Okay? Your spirit actually has substance. So these things, when we think of these things that follow us out of the woods and follow us home, don't think spirit. Just think invisible or cloaked. I promise you that will serve you better. But at the same time, nothing protects you more than your own sovereignty and, of course, the will of the one who made you. Just say, hey, watch out for me today as I go about my day. Send the Holy Spirit out ahead of me to soften the hearts and minds of those I'll interact with. Leave the fire of the Holy Spirit behind me as a testament, setting a fire and kindling a fire in the hearts of all of those I interact with for a desire to seek God. It can be very simple prayers, all right? So anyway, what do you guys think? What is it that I heard? Was it a mountain lion? Was it a mountain lion in heat? Was it a Sasquatch? What do you guys think? So we're going to be talking more about like the boogeyman in the woods and what I think that actually is. And of course, does streaming actually cause and produce paranormal and supernatural activity in our lives? Now, why would it do that? Because they ride or they travel along airwaves and radio waves because of frequency. Their beings are made up of frequency just like ours. So theoretically, these things could travel from point A, say, I don't know, CERN, the birthplace of the internet, to your Ethernet internet cables. And then if you're streaming through the screen, into your home. And now you've just invited some entity into your home because you were unaware and ignorant of how these things work and operate. That's what's going to be next. But watch for an upload about a surveillance program I found, another one. And then the next live, I'm going to try and find information on the streaming thing. I might just have to do experiments and start running my camera all the time in my room. But again, I have a lot of protection. The goal is to expose it for you, to take the rabbit out of the hat. so to speak, and to show you it's not really all that bad, and it's not really what you thought anyway. Hang in there, guys. Pray. Meditate on good things. Think on good, joyous thoughts, because your thoughts becomes your words, and those become your deeds. So let's be very mindful and intentional with our thoughts. It's another reason they want you so busy, is so that everything in your head and mouth, and just so that you become more hedonistic and you pay no heed to spirit. That's dangerous. All right, guys, I love you. Please feel free to comment. I miss talking to you guys. Have a great day. More soon. Watch for the surveillance video. That will be uploaded sometime today. And it's just another one of those projects or programs that I stumbled onto. Just like, what was the other one with the mirror? And Alice in Wonderland. We have that one. We have Project Mockingbird with all the media figures. So there's a lot of them. And I found another one that I think you'll be interested in. And I actually think that's the real reason that they killed JFK. You guys have a great day. That's what's coming next.